going through a brand new game that we've been waiting for a few months after the developer direct, and that is Hellblade 2 Senua's Saga. And this is a game that we thought is just going to be just a Hail Mary, but as it turns out, it just turned from something like just dismiss it as just another game in the Xbox catalog to we made a lot more memes out of it, just like what we did with Hi-Fi Rush. Like, if you check out on the Xbox Box YouTube channel, you'll find a couple of memes, because during a game, you just have, like, thoughts going around, and I thought, oh gosh, that's really fun, and I just put that into memes. And this led to me making my first ever 10-hour video on YouTube.
Oh, yeah,
so it's all there. It's all there on YouTube. So if you've been listening to it on Spotify or been watching on YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube channel at Xbox the Box, and you see memes everywhere.
Yeah. So if you want to help the channel out, just leave this 10-hour video on in the background where you do something.
Good idea.
It'll get our viewership up. Yeah, so this is Hellblade 2, the first big exclusive of the year. Xbox has apparently got 10 big games coming out this year at least, according to Matt Booty. This is the first one. We're in the 5th month of the year. Microsoft needs to remember that January and February and that are actual months of the year where they could release games. They seem to forget that every year. But that being said, this is this year's, like you said, it's kind of like this year's Hi-Fi Rush, isn't it? It's the smaller game that is hopefully going to be recognized throughout the year.
Well, actually, it's just basically a sequel to Hellblade.
Yeah,
but
it is, yes.
But to anyone who's just tuned into the podcast and not totally up to date with the Xbox stuff, then, and even those who haven't checked out Hellblade before, this involves a series where Senua, who has gone through absolute hell, and when her village has been destroyed, and spent the events of the first game to go for a soul of her lover in, I think it was Hellium or some sort. I don't know. In the second game,
Hell with one L, I think it's spelled.
Helmheim or some sort. But
yeah.
But in the second game, it's almost like as if it's a separate story that it builds upon the events of the first one, and that Senua has already got some kind of resolution and some extra upgrades. But this is practically about her exploring the different realm of the universe and discovers whole concepts like giants and how she just learns about all those kinds of people while she gets tormented by the voices in her head, met up with the Furies that she encounters them after the village incident, and gets to go through her past, her present, and the future, and it even leads to some additional voices in her head that just deals with a psychosis of some sort, and it's done with some mental health experts too. So
yes,
but to top it off, this game is a huge step up, and you can obviously tell from the audio, which they made it so that the thoughts play out in the back of your head when you put your headphones on, just like for the first game that you should enjoy with headphones on.
Yes.
You can do this by plugging, if you have a wired headphone, you can connect it to your controller. But with the Bluetooth controller, you may have to get the Xbox headset. But I don't know if you can do this with any other Bluetooth controller. But yeah, this is practically essential need for both of these Hellblade games. Also, the visuals have been given a huge overhaul because of Unreal Engine 5. So yeah, Hellblade 2 is one of the earliest games that uses the Unreal Engine 5. That when compared to the original, which uses Unreal Engine 4, you can already tell this is a huge step up. Once I played through Hellblade 2, it just looks so photorealistic. And when you play Hellblade, the original Hellblade, it just looks like it's a PlayStation 3 game. And you can tell how much of a significant upgrade to the graphics, and it's almost as if you're watching a movie.
Yeah, it is photorealistic. So that's what I was going to say. The good parts of this game. So there's a lot of good, there's a lot of bad. I really enjoyed this game for what it was. The best bits about this game is this is probably the most beautiful game I've ever seen, ever. It's right up there with like the Matrix tech demo they put out. Like, graphically, this is one of the most beautiful video games I've ever seen.
One
I
of the
kept wanting.
best.
I think it. I can't really think of anything that looks better, to be honest. And then if this is what Gears of War 6 is going to look like, then blooming heck, I'm really excited.
Mm.
I just during this game, I lost track how many times I just pushed the D-pad up, which goes into photo mode, and just turn the camera around and have a look around the map and like how detailed it is. Like, there'll be stuff that you would never normally see in gameplay, like bottom of the cliffs and stuff. They're still photorealistic, and they're just there, even though you're not actually ever going to see them as the player. The graphical fidelity in this game is absolutely stunning. It is the most beautiful game I've ever seen in my entire life. I can't think of anything that looks better than this. But I'm not a graphics whore, which is the thing. So it doesn't. I don't know if I'm really that like. It's cool, but I'll get more into detail about the other stuff. The other great thing about this game is what you were saying earlier: audio. This has got the greatest, some of the best audio ever heard in a video game ever. It's very well done. The psychosis, as you said, it's all about. It's been. I think it was done with Oxford University, or was
Really?
it Cambridge? I think so. Yeah,
I think it's Cambridge, though. I'm not sure.
Cambridge. Sorry, yeah, Cambridge. I got it wrong. I got my posh universities mixed up. And they talk to like proper people who like study these things, these mental disorders, and they've managed to make like a realistic simulation of how it would feel. As I was saying to the PS Trust guys, I mentioned this because I was talking to them in a chat about it. They love VR. Could you imagine having a VR experience with this kind of audio and that kind of graphical fidelity? How insane would that be? That would be absolutely mad. I'm not a huge fan of VR, but I'm just saying how much of an crazy experience that would be.
I do have some points towards this. That with audio, I think this is a kind of spatial audio that I used to get this thing that it's just by Turtle Beach, and this is a sound processor that when you connect it all to its special headphones, it gives you 5.1 surround sound through the stereo headphones. And this technology has already been done as Adobe Atmos and I think it's a DTS X or some sort. Microsoft Xbox has already got those in, and you can pay for half days, but just the Windows default Sonar headphones is just enough to play this. And Hellblade 2, I mean, I think it's more to do with the sound design than the technology that just makes it very immersive. That when I played it for a few hours, it's just like as if you've been sucked in and have yourself clawed into the Senua's mind.
I agree.
And it's just this equivalent of not just watching a movie, but literally reading the book. Because when you read the book, you visualize all the internal thoughts and have all those things happening in your head. And it just seems like as if it's already been read out to you and give you what you expect to see in your head. And I think it's just like gives you a very, very impressive experience. But as for the graphics itself, I think I've seen many things that competes with it, and that includes Horizon 2 on like PlayStation 5, and there's some like few other games too. But I think the truth of the matter is that Hellblade 2, I mean, if it's not the most beautiful game ever, then at least it gives you a taste of things of what to come, because people have already done spectacular things at Unreal Engine 4. Unreal Engine 5 is not only bigger, but it's also substantially better and deals with the post-processing effects excellently, which means you could see more games of Hellblade 2 in terms of graphics. But I think it's just something that if Ninja Theory, I mean, don't kill them, Microsoft, but if the Ninja Theory continues with the Unreal Engine 5, they could get even better and better, and hopefully we could see more things like Hellblade 3. But the question is this game good enough for them to succeed?
Yeah, so this is where I was going to get into it. So, as I've just said, the graphics and the audio were fantastic. But, this is the big but. Is it a good game? It's a good cinematic experience, maybe a good tech demo, and it's a good piece of art. I would say. I think it's a very good piece of art.
Yes.
And as we both did game design in university, we kind of very much appreciate the amount of effort and skill put into this. But there's a lot of just walking in a straight line. There's a lot of just sitting there watching cutscenes, and the puzzles are not that fun. I'm not a huge fan of the puzzle mechanics in here. I did enjoy the combat. I thought the combat was great when it comes to it, but it is pretty basic. So the game side of the game was a bit lacking, I thought, honestly.
I do have a bit more meat on the bones with that. And
yeah, go.
I don't know if you have played original, but I have played original last night, and I can already tell the differences. That first of all, Hellblade 2, I think you could say you say the God of War Ragnarok is iffy because it's a Walking Dead simulator.
Yeah.
Well,
a little bit.
Senua's Saga Hellblade 2 is just literally a walking Outlander simulator.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say that as well. That is the reason I'm an Xbox fan is because I'm not a huge fan of third-person talking, watching cutscenes, and walking simulators, which is what the PlayStation first party is kind of made of. So I feel like I'd be a hypocrite if I said that.
Yes,
I feel like a hypocrite if I went Hellblade 2 is the best game I've ever played ever. after saying God of War's a walking simulator and Last of Us is a walking simulator, I'd feel a bit of a hypocrite, to be honest. And I really like this game, so don't get it twisted, because I feel like the way I sound inside, I don't like it, but it is a lot of sitting there doing nothing.
Well,
or a lot of just holding forward on the joystick, which is a bit of a shame. But I still, what it is, I think it was I liked it.
I do feel that after playing the original Hellblade, you can definitely tell the difference that if you feel the Hellblade is a walking simulator, but the sequel, you definitely feel like it because it's linear, it has branching paths only for the collectibles, and the puzzles is it's basically putting the sequence of events that helps you carve out the paths and get those things done. Whereas the original is a bit more confusing because it does allow for more exploration, that instead of a linear path, you just have to walk all the way around and try to solve puzzles. So far in the original, you have portals that if you go through it, it's like the portal technology in Prey, that if you walk in front of it and you see through it, you can reveal paths. And I think this is really cool. And you just explore and try to find ways to solve puzzles. Whereas the Hellblade 2 is you focus on symbols and bubbles and make things appear. And it's just more trying to sequence things out in order to unlock things for the door. And that's where it just gets really different. Especially the Hellblade, the original Hellblade is allows for more exploration, but there's some linear stuff going around. Whereas the Hellblade 2 is actually more clever with their stuff, with the new things to technology. You do have lore stones that you can find out, and so far it just seems like it's much harder to find them in the sequel. Whereas you get additional collectibles that you have to pay attention to the environment and see if you can find faces, that if you were to focus on them, it reveals paths. And this is literally what tripped me up doing the blind test. And I noticed I only found one or two faces because I didn't realize what they're supposed to look like. And I just realized, I have to find faces around the environment and focus on them to find those extra bits of lore. And it's oh, cool.
I think there's about 28 collectibles, I think, as you said.
35.
So there's rock. 35, okay. So there's rock face. Yeah, so there's faces that are on rocks, like a rock face. And then also there's the other things. I've got what they're called now.
I think it's literally dealing with the game that's between the rock and the hard place.
But yeah, I feel like the best way I could describe this game when it comes to a review is that when we get to the end of the year, Jeff Keighley does his Game of the Year awards.
Yes.
Right? I think this game should not be up for Game of the Year, even though I liked it. It shouldn't be in the Game of the Year discussion, but it should be it should win or be up for best audio, best graphics, best art, best performance. Like those four, they should definitely be winning or up for those nominations for those awards. Because I feel like Sinua, the actress and the acting in this game, and the voice acting and the performances are fantastic. The graphics are fantastic. The music's fantastic. The things that let it down are the gameplay, unfortunately. But I still really enjoyed it. I thought it was great for
Yes.
what it was. Also, I want to mention as well that this game, I think, it stands up there with games like God of War and Last of Us 2 and all that. And it's made by a team of 80 people. And I think that, and it's all right, is a very impressive feat. And I'm very impressed at the team of this, a team it's essentially an indie team, more or less, making a game of this.
80
Wow.
people?
80 is a bit more than it. It's like, it's in between.
That's like
it's
talking
not,
about AA studio, isn't it?
It's like a AA studio, yeah. Like they made a game that this visually impressive, this audio impressive. Said I like the combat. People argue about the combat. Puzzles are a bit lacking, but honestly, I feel like this is a very good game, especially for a team of that size.
Well,
and it's impressive.
Oh yeah.
But also,
Sorry.
I think this is a game. I also think if I was showing someone like my mum like an Xbox, it's like, oh, this is what gaming is like. This is the type of game I would put them down in front of. This is a good showcase game. This is a good way to show off how powerful the Xbox is and what gaming can be to maybe an outsider or someone who's a bit more casual as well.
She will
And
think
that
it's
is
a
also
movie.
positive. Yeah, in lots of times I'm like, surely this is real footage, and I'll push the camera button and change it to photo mode, and I'm like, oh no, that's a 3D model. Wow.
Well, that reminds me of the Uncharted 2 ad. You're like, oh, this is like the real thing or some sort, and then his girlfriend comes in with a popcorn, and she thinks it's a movie.
Yeah, oh yes, I remember that. And then he plays Crash Bandicoot.
Yeah. But
Uncharted.
as you were talking about combat, and I forgot to mention this, that's differences that where Hellblade 2 improves in those things and what suffers in those things is that with the original Hellblades, like you have to go around and try to attack the enemies. That it does have an auto lock on, and quite often you have multiple enemies, and you really have to position yourself to kill them. But it's not very easy to do, and quite often you have to juggle between the enemies. And I don't really think this is fun, which is what made me miss about the combat in Hellblade 2, because it focuses on just one individual, but it's also like a bit more on Wales because you're only like dealing the battle between two of you, and once you do it, you just have to go through each and every enemy until you did that. Also, it's much easier to gain enough experience to activate the mirror mode, which slows down time when you kill people. I mean, it's been both games, but it's much easier to use it. Also, it comes with the flexible difficulty that's on both games, but even the automatic difficulty on, you wouldn't have that much of a challenge with the combat.
Yeah.
And I think that most of the combat is just trying to get through all these dark environments, because there's some parts of it that are like really dark. Also, I really did dread the cave level where you have to follow the light and make sure you just navigate through it unless you get killed by one of those cave dwellers. And sometimes it just makes you really sweaty. Whereas in the original game, it's like you spend more of a time trying to get your head around the environments. And the combat does make you sweaty because you have to position yourself and kill them. Like, spoilers for the first game, but there's a line that says, like, if you don't, like, complete this game, if you die or fail too many times, your arm will, like, turn completely black and went to your head, and you would lose all your progress, which suggests a permanent deletion of your save. Yeah. But it turns out to be just a bluff, and just, like, tries to increase anxiety of over players. But Hellblade 2 doesn't use any of that, and instead it just focuses on the aesthetics and trying to use some kind of gimmicks to make you feel like as if you try to be like Senua, only done in your own perspective. Whereas the sequel is just kind of puts you into Senua's head a lot more, and that really just makes a better synergy between her and yourself.
Stupid. stupid. I'm like, shut up, I'm not stupid. Don't call me stupid. No, yeah, I agree with everything you're saying there. I need to go back and finish the first one. I got about halfway through it and I just stopped playing it. I never went back to it.
It's
I
only
wasn't a fan of the combat
hours.
in the first one. I know. I just wasn't a fan of the combat in the first one. I found it a bit too clunky. I didn't like it, and I much preferred the combat in the second one personally. I might go back to it though. Easy 1,000 gamer score, as you said, and as we both said earlier, I think we both got the 1,000 gamer score on this now.
Yeah, the Hellblade 2.
Ooh, it's a platinum. I wish we had a sound effect like that on our channel. We don't. Make a sound effect. Do it. Yeah, but we love our 1,000 gamer score. I would love to have. It'd be so nice to have like a platinum trophy or achievement. That's changing the subject again, but that is something I would love to see as well. Yeah, it's a short game. Highly recommend trying it out. If you have Game Pass, there's no reason not to. Just give it a shot. You'll probably it's a fun experience. Just as an experience, it's interesting.
Yeah, I think this is a good. It's definitely like the game that is. I mean, if you were to find any games that makes you feel like it's worth going for Game Pass, Hellblade 2 is definitely in there, and it's where the Game Pass version is much better value for money than just buying outright for 50 quid.
Oh yeah,
you can also get it on PC and Steam, but then I think you might be able to get the money's worth out of like Game Pass for Xbox and PC as well. So
yeah, if it does come to PS5, which the rumors are, I might buy it again and get the platinum.
It's possible because the original Hellblade came out on the PlayStation 4.
Yeah, it was a PlayStation 4 exclusive, and then Xbox bought the rights to it. And now it's an Xbox franchise. It's so weird, but it's cool. I really like it.
No wonder why it plays like a PlayStation 2 game.
So, out of 10, what would you give this? What would you give this game?
I would say that as a game, you won't find that much, and you can easily beat it under 10 hours. Which you said on the video when I did the 10-hour meme out of it. It's like, oh, this is longer than the whole game.
Yeah, it's true. It is.
Yeah,
I quite like this bite size, to be honest, because I felt like the game like The Last of Us 2 was like 5 hours too long. I prefer the game that's a bit like this length, personally. Well, anyway, sorry, I interrupted you.
That's okay. Because to me, it's a slightly bit longer than the original game, but I do feel as if this could have been double in length and could have been done in like 12 hours. That would do me fine with this game because it has so much potential to be such an excellent game, and it has lots of good things associated with it. And yet, it's just a equivalent interactive movie more than anything. And I just feel that more could have been given into this whole game, and more could have been given into the story, because with the story, it's just like you go through a background story, and then halfway you just already get into the actual theme of this game, which then is kind of a bit rushed, and you feel like you need some extra bits because it says like there's 3 giants, but it seems as if you only deal like about 2.5 of those, and it just makes me feel like they could have like spent more time and put more stuff into it, and this could have been a lot longer. But the puzzles and the gameplay is something that kind of doesn't necessarily make it a masterpiece. So if you're looking for a kind of game that you enjoy doing and have a lot of collectibles, then you may not get much from the game and you'll most likely forget it. But as one of the showcases of Game Pass and Unreal Engine 5, especially at 45 gigabytes, that seems like you get a huge experience out of it. That once you find out how to like get it working with your headphones and being able to experience it, you will have a very good time with this game. And this warrants an 8 out of 10 for Hellblade 2.
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much echo everything you've just said there. So what I was going to say is that if this game was an interactive movie, a tech demo, or whatever, graphically, this is one of the greatest games I've ever seen. Graphically, the audio is amazing, the acting is fantastic. That's all 10 out of 10. That's a masterpiece as far as I'm concerned, that part. However, the gameplay, the puzzles are boring, the combat's basic, it's a lot of walking, a lot of talking, but that would probably be like a 6 out of 10. So in the middle, overall, I give it an 8 as well. That was my initial thinking. While I was playing it, I was starting to enjoy it more. I was 8 when I first started. I was enjoying it more as the game went on. I thought, oh, maybe this is a 9, but I think I'm going to stick to an 8. But it's a high 8, even though we haven't really got a high 8 or anything. I really enjoyed this game. I would highly recommend playing it, but just have have your expectations in check. You're not gonna have you're not gonna have the most crazy combat game ever, but as an experience, as a piece of art, is fantastic, and it's it. I guess our joint score is 8 out of 10.
I was gonna joke about Starfield, but then, to be fair, you get a lot more value out of Starfield, and now there's that May update, which improves a lot. Graphics, difficulty settings, and everything. And now, like, if you get Game Pass and you download Starfield, this is like it's a better featured game than it was before. And honestly, it offers more value for money, gives you more hours of gameplay. And yeah, people just seems to be quite against it than with Hellblade 2. Because Hellblade 2, you don't get a lot much out of it. But on assessing is great. Which is kind of a bit weird if you think about it. But if the Starfield wasn't made in the creation kit, like they still haven't given out mod support as far as I know. But if it were to be made in Unreal Engine 5 instead and uses all the technologies to make it just as good as like Hellblade 2 with fewer bugs because of that engine, then you would definitely have a huge winner. And yes, it would have like went for like 10 out of 10 because Hellblade 2 is already looking impressive and sounds supremely fantastic thanks to this engine. And it's just something that you just want more out of it. So I think 8 out of 10 is what justifies for this game.
I think if you look at this game and this is how the Gears of War 6 is going to look like, or some future games on Unreal Engine 5, we're going to be in for a treat. I think this is, as I said, it is a beautiful game. Just a shame about the game part of the game.
Yeah.
It's a shame it's got a bit old PlayStation-y. Ooh. No, but so that is our joint score of 8 out of 10. Let us know in the comments below what you guys think will be your score out of 10 on Hellblade 2. Also, would you like to hear a spoiler cast, or is that something meh?
Don't worry too much. I think I would rather let people check out Hellblade 2 and give loads of time, really. Because I think that there's a lot of ideas, but I think it's best to focus on what we got.
Thank you for listening to the X Marks the Box podcast. Follow us at X Marks Box on Twitter or X Marks the Box on YouTube. And follow us on all audio podcast services. Thanks for listening.